The sun was a merciless blaze over the dry plains of Dustwell, painting the land in gold and fire as the wind carried the smell of gunpowder and ruin. The war between ranchers and raiders had torn through the valley for months, leaving behind only ashes and ghosts. And in that broken land, a woman named Ilara rode hard across the wasteland, her face streaked with sweat and grit, her eyes sharp with desperation. She was no ordinary rider. Her dress was torn, her hands bruised from reins she had held too tightly, and behind her the faint plume of smoke from her family's burning homestead rose like a curse. The raiders had taken everything, her cattle, her brother, and her dignity, and now there was only one man left who could save what remained, the man she had once sworn never to face again. Cole Maddox, the cowboy who ruled the high plains like a storm. Cole was a name whispered in fear and respect. He had a reputation for being ruthless when it came to protecting his land, and even more ruthless toward those who crossed him. When Ilara rode into his ranch yard that afternoon, his men paused mid-task, their eyes narrowing as dust swirled around her. Cole stepped out from the barn, the brim of his hat shading the piercing gray eyes that seemed to see straight through lies. "You're on my land, Miss Harper," he said, voice rough as gravel. "And I don't recall inviting trouble." Ilara slid off her horse, barely able to stand from exhaustion. "I'm not trouble," she rasped, her throat dry. "I'm here to make a deal." Cole arched a brow. "A deal?" he asked, crossing his arms. "Last time we met, you told me I'd rot in hell before you ever needed my help." Ilara's lips trembled, but her gaze never wavered. Then I guess I'm already halfway there," she whispered. She took a step closer, clutching the rope in her hand, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. "Take me as your prisoner," she said suddenly, the words cutting the air like a blade. "Keep me here, do whatever you want with me, but please save my family. The raiders will kill them if I don't bring them cattle and food by sunset." The ranch fell silent. Even the horses seemed to hold their breath. Cole stared at her, stunned. "You want me to take you prisoner?" he asked slowly, his voice quieter now, almost cautious. "You'd give yourself up to me just to save them?" Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "Yes," she said firmly. "You once said I had pride bigger than Texas. Well, I'll bury it now, if it means my brother lives." Cole turned away for a long moment, his jaw clenched. He had seen people break, seen fear twist strong men into cowards, but there was something in her defiance that made his chest ache. She wasn't begging for mercy. She was demanding a chance to sacrifice herself. Finally, he turned back. "You don't understand what you're asking, Ilara," he said. "You give yourself up to me, and there's no going back. My men don't take kindly to raiders' kin. Then I'll take their hatred," she said. "But you'll take my word. I'll work, I'll serve, I'll pay every debt, but save my family." Cole studied her in silence, his mind a storm of memory and conflict. He had once loved her long ago, before betrayal and blood turned them into enemies. Now she stood before him, broken yet unyielding. Finally he nodded once. "You've got until sundown to prove your worth," he said. "If I find truth in your words, I'll ride for your family myself. But if you're lying—" He let the warning hang heavy in the air. That night, under the dim lantern light of the stables, Ilara worked with trembling hands, mending ropes and tending to wounded horses, every breath a prayer for her family's survival. Cole watched her from the shadows, torn between suspicion and something deeper, something he thought he'd buried. When midnight came, he walked toward her quietly. "You're not lying, are you?" he asked. She lifted her gaze, eyes red but fierce. "No, Cole, I wish I were." He took a deep breath, the old pain between them rising like smoke. "Then at dawn," he said, "we ride." Dawn broke with a chill that cut through the heart of the plains. Cole and his men rode out with Ilara leading the way, her wrists bound with rope, not for punishment, but for protection. "They'll believe I'm your captive," she'd explained. "It's the only way we'll get close." Cole had agreed, though every knot tied around her wrists felt like a betrayal to something inside him. The ride was silent, only the rhythmic beat of hooves breaking the stillness. The closer they got to the raiders' camp, the darker the sky seemed to grow. as if the land itself was holding its breath for what was coming. When they reached the ridge overlooking the camp, Cole saw the smoke from their fires, the broken wagons, the stolen cattle, and among them, the faint cry of a child. Ilara's face went pale. "That's my brother," she whispered. Cole's jaw tightened. "All right," he said. "If we end this fast." With a signal, his men moved like shadows through the brush. The first shots cracked through the air like thunder, and chaos erupted below. Ilara's heart pounded as Cole cut through the raiders like a storm, silent, deadly, merciless. When one raider dragged her brother toward the flames, she screamed his name and broke free from her ropes, running into the chaos. A gunshot rang out, and Cole was there before she even saw him move, pulling her down, shielding her with his body as dust exploded around them. By the time the smoke cleared, the raiders lay scattered across the valley floor. The battle was over, but the silence afterward was heavier than war. Cole stood with his chest heaving, staring at Ilara, who was cradling her brother and sobbing quietly. "You saved them," she said through her tears. "You didn't have to." Cole looked away, his hands trembling slightly. "You gave me something I thought I'd lost," he murmured. "A reason to do what's right." They buried the dead raiders by the old oak tree, and as the sun dipped low, Cole walked Ilara back to her horse. "You're free now," he said. "No debts, no chains," but she shook her head. "You still don't understand," she said softly. "I gave myself to you, not as a prisoner, but as someone who finally sees who you are." Cole froze, the words striking deep. For a long time, neither spoke. The wind carried the scent of rain, soft and cleansing, as if the earth itself was forgiving them both. Finally he reached out, untying the last strand of rope around her wrist. "Then maybe," he said slowly, "it's time I stopped fighting what was always meant to be." As the storm rolled over the plains that night, the ranch was quiet, but alive with new hope. Ilara stayed, not as a captive, but as the woman who had turned a hardened cowboy's heart back toward mercy. Together, they rebuilt what war had torn apart, finding in each other the redemption neither thought possible. And as the story of Cole Maddox and Ilara Harper spread across Dustwell, it became more than just a tale of war and sacrifice. It became a story of faith, courage, and love reborn from ashes. If you were moved by this story of courage and redemption, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful Wild West stories of love, survival, and second chances. Your support keeps these untold tales alive.